Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is the MG Cyberster, a brand new two-seater sports convertible from a brand that is known for its two-seater sports convertibles. So let's see if it's any good. So as usual, we'll start here at the front, where you can see that the Cyberster has been given some classic sports car styling. Very, very low front nose, obviously with your MG badge on it. I love these lights. They've got kind of webs in them, the same sort of things we see in the MG4's lights, tying it into the family, and then a great big long bonnet. A bonnet so long, in fact, you'd be forgiven for thinking there might be some storage under it. But as this is a low, sleek coupe, I think they put lots of important mechanical gubbins in there that you still need in an electric car. The real party piece, though, is this. It's got scissor doors, like a Lamborghini. I'll close that up. Electric, and as you can see, quite slow, but it's all about the theatre of the thing. I do also want to point out these lovely, sweet alloy wheels. I think the design of those is excellent. Speaking of excellent design, we have these arrow indicators, which I love. These are excellent. They are too on the nose for some people. They split opinion, but I think they're brilliant because I am a simpleton. We've also got this splitter effect because this is in fact a sports car, and a centre light down there just like an F1 car, except this is a reversing light. I'll open the boot though, as this is sort of a GT actually. There's a nice handy boot release here on the back, little bit road salty. When I open it up, I am greeted by 249 litres of space. Now, it's kind of a top-loading washing machine, if you will, and the opening doesn't go to the full back of the boot. There are a couple of good points here though. Even though this is a convertible, this boot space is permanent. You don't have to bring a guard down or anything like that. So you always have this boot space. It's quite wide, which is good if you have maybe some golf bats to get in. There are a couple of nets. There's underfloor, but that is just for your tyre repair kit. But I think you'd be able to get everything you'd want for two people in a boot of this size. It's slightly down on the Z4, and obviously it doesn't have a frunk, so it's quite a long way down from the Boxster, but I think plenty. Let's see what the seats are like. So obviously no back seats to cover here, straight into the cockpit, and I think cockpit is the right word for it. Everything is circled around the driver. I have 4 screens in here, which actually maybe that's the opposite of driver focused, but I've got kind of trip computer and options on this side, central driving display, infotainment and sat nav here, and then climate control down here, with a set of shortcut buttons, which are sort of semi-real buttons. You have to physically push the panel, but the whole panel pushes and it vibrates a bit. So it's sort of better than a touch screen a little bit. And then this is the gear shifter. It's an interesting setup. You push in park, pull down reverse, push in neutral, and pull down drive. But it creates a sort of lovely element here. 2 cup holders, and if you hate cup holders for some reason, you can pop them up and then you have a nice smooth area for your Greggs sausage roll. But I'll pop that back down. You also have a kind of channel here that you can pop your phone in to stop it flying about. There's a couple of other little channels up there if you've got some personal effects to put away, because you don't have conventional door pockets thanks to the fact that the doors fly up. You actually have kind of lift out little tiny glove boxes, if that makes sense. But you also have a proper normal glove box, and it's felt lined and damped. Actually, the whole of this interior is lovely, as it should be. This is a £55,000 car, so it really is up against the Porsche Boxster and the BMW Z4 rather than something like the MX-5. But everything is soft touch, covered in leather. The seats are lovely. They've got Allen on the centre, and then Annette is hiding behind the seats. So you've got kind of a front and a back one, and this storage space behind the seats. The seat, as you see it now, is all the way in its back position. So that storage space is always there. And it's actually currently hiding my wind deflector, which is not in place. But you can pop that in between the seats if you want to go with the roof down to avoid having hair like mine. Obviously, I've got some rollover bars as well on the windscreen here. I have found that when the roof is in place, there's kind of a portion of it here that's quite easy to headbutt as you're getting in and out of the car. And in general, I may be sat slightly higher than I would expect to be or like to be in a car like this. That's because obviously you've got the battery under the floor, so everything has to just be lifted a tiny little bit, and it is a very, very shallow battery that MG does. It's impressive, but it's still noticeable. I think overall though, I'm actually quite well seated down in the cabin. It's just the headroom, but shoulder room, leg space, all excellent. On the steering wheel itself, I've got some paddles. The left-hand one is labelled KERS. That handles Eurogenerative braking. That just cycles 1, 2, 3, and then back to 1. It pulls in one direction, and that controls it. On the right-hand side, though, you change your drive mode. You've got comfort, sports, and a kind of personal preference custom one. And then down here, there's a big red button which fires your missiles. No, I mean, it turns on super sports. On the other side, it's counterpoint with the steering wheel on it. That turns on your smart cruise control. So it's kind of a car with two personalities there. You've got the usual unlabeled buttons as well. This one will do your volume and your track skipping, even though it's just directional. And this one will do your smart cruise controls, even though it's just direction buttons. And then some stuff to handle your screens, but these are also touch screens, which is a slightly odd setup when you're trying to type, because you end up behind the stalks trying to type things in. And depending on how you hold your steering wheel, if you hold your steering wheel here, I can't see either side screen now. If you hold the steering wheel at 3 and 9, then you can just about see your screens. Part of the screen is still covered though. There are also numerous ways to control the doors in this car. So if I want convenience, down here on the centre console, I can just lift up this switch and that opens the door. But what if my left arm's tired and I'd like to use my right arm? Well, in that case, I can reach up and use a button on the door itself. Now, of course, they don't work from outside the car, so there is also a button on top of the door, just how I opened it earlier. That closes it and opens it. And then, if I find myself the key, I'm not sure if this will work while I'm sitting in the car, but I can also hold the button on the key, and that will close the door. So that's 4 different buttons for open and closing the door. So you may be thinking, but what happens if the battery's flat? Well, there's emergency releases between the seats here, which I imagine you'd also want to use in a rollover since the doors go up. So that might be an issue. I think, though, let's talk about the rest on the drive. Right, well, even though it's the middle of December as I film this, there is only one way to review a convertible sports car, and that is with the roof down. Which also helps to demonstrate maybe the issue with sitting slightly higher in the cabin is my hair is out in the weather, as it were. So in terms of key stats for this car, this is a trophy. So that means roughly £55,000 to buy. Rear wheel drive, 335 brake horsepower, 350 pounds-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in around 5 seconds. You can step up and get an all-wheel drive version for around £60,000. That has over 500 horsepower and a 0 to 62 of around 3.2 seconds. I've driven that car. I wanted to drive this one because it's a little bit lighter. It's about 100 kilos lighter. It's still perilously close to 2 tons, but it is lighter. And obviously being rear wheel drive, it promises to be a little more engaging and fun on a back road, which is what I really want from a car like this. Now obviously the 500 horsepower version is savagely fast and an excellent long distance cruiser, but I think this might be where you could find a bit more fun. With that being said, there are some dynamic issues with this vehicle. The damping could really use some work. Over a rough surface, the back end fully lifts, which is really not ideal. And also, there doesn't seem to be particularly strong torque vectoring of any kind, or something to ape a limited slip differential, basically. So if you're on a tight corner and you apply power, the inside wheel spins it away. And it means instead of the back end kind of engaging and maybe stepping out slightly in a way that a keen driver would enjoy, it's just a little bit jittery and shaky, because then also you've got the damping being not quite helpful. And I don't know how much those two issues are intertwined. It is otherwise really, really nice to drive. In terms of a cruiser, it's super, super comfortable. Over a smooth surface, a motorway, a nice wide A road, the ride is beautiful. Very, very calm and relaxing. I'm really comfortable in this interior as well. If you are any taller than me, it will be a push to get in this car. I'm 180 centimeters, 5'11". Rob struggles to sit in this car, but for me, it's lovely. With these doors, I actually find getting in and out really easy for this sort of form factor of vehicle. Usually, a low two-seater coupe like this, you have to get your legs in under the steering wheel, but this has a flat bottom for easy access, and it makes it feel sporty. It's really well judged, I think, as a sort of GT cruiser, and viable as one, because in this rear-wheel drive version, you get over 300 miles of range, WLTP, like 316. You step up to the dual motor version, that's going to be more like 270 miles of range, 276 I think, and it recharges at 144 kilowatts, so it will go from 10 to 80% in around half an hour. So if you wanted to go long distance in this, I think you've got enough luggage space, the cabin is comfortable enough, it really would be very, very feasible, and you could go the whole way, you know, in beautiful silence. I'm actually really enjoying the experience of being out in the elements without the sound of an engine, as strange as that might sound, because I do love having an excellent petrol soundtrack, but having the sort of serenity of silence actually is almost as evocative. For me personally, I do enjoy pressing this car. So I've told you the downsides dynamically, and that's like, if you want to push it fast on a track, or if you really want to take it to the limit, it's not going to react like the purest, most driver-focused cars. It's not going to play in that way. It will engage with you though. The steering weighting is a bit greater than it is in other MG models to give you a little more sense of what's going on. There's no great amount of feel. It is an electric system, and as far as I can work out, the various modes don't seem to adjust the steering weight that much. I've got it in super sports mode now with the push of this red button, so I do have the full power on tap, 335 brake. It's going to get a bit loud now, but let's push it a little bit and see how it goes. So lots and lots of shove down the road. The top speed is only 121, not super high, but obviously if you're only driving it on the road, that's not really an issue. As you can see, I'm bouncing around a bit, but the brakes feel good. Obviously I've got the regen I can set. I prefer to have it off in a sporty sort of car, because if you have to change your balance mid-corner, I find the regen kind of can upset the car. And then over faster corners, it does grip really quite well. There's not too much body roll, probably more than you'd get in other two-seater sports cars, but actually overall, for all cars, quite composed in terms of body roll, which is impressive for this level of comfort. And I can sort of feel the chassis beneath me. And actually, when you are kicking hard out of a corner and you do lose traction, yes, it's not a classic catch it heroic power slide, but it engages, you can feel it, it's pushing out of the corner, fighting for the traction, and that is an enjoyable experience. It's not unpleasant, it doesn't feel risky like you're about to spin out or understeer or anything like that. It is understeer prone if you go into a corner too fast, but as I've said, it's excellent brakes, so that would really be on you. I think overall then, while it's not the sportiest car in the world, it's a GT, it's electric, it's something new, something different, and it's absolutely jaw-droppingly beautiful and lovely as an object to own and drive. And I actually really, really want one of these. Like, I just have a desire to own this vehicle. I don't know why, but I do. So let's go back and do a full conclusion. So, the MG Cyberster. What am I thinking? Well, as you've just heard, I really, really like this car. I think it's beautiful, and I'm childish, so I really, really like this bit, because I'm a childish show-off, to be honest. And this is a showy, offy sort of car. I also like the drive. Yes, it's a little bit old-manish GT, but that kind of suits me. And I personally enjoy pushing it on a back road. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Go down to those comments. Tell me what you think of the MG Cyberster. Also, while you're down there, take a detour via the description. There you'll find all our social medias. You'll also find 2 ways you can support the channel directly. We have a merchandise store, and we also have channel memberships right here on YouTube. So please go and do one or all of those things, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.